Hi everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Reading Club book review of Star Wars Bloodline by Claudia Gray. And I'll just say right off the bat, it's been a while since I've read a Star Wars book. The last one was A New Dawn, and that was way back in, I believe it was January. But right when I saw the timeline for this book here, I just knew that it was a must-read, and I think that it was a good introduction back into some Star Wars reading. Just in case you didn't know, maybe I'll just give a little bit of background information just on the book and why I thought that it was a must-read. But it takes place roughly 6 years before the events of The Force Awakens. So again, right away, I wanted as much information leading up to The Force Awakens that I could get. So right away, I knew I just had to read it. But also, too, what you can expect from this book is a lot of focus on the political aspects of the galaxy as we lead into The Force Awakens. And again, if you don't like the political aspects of Star Wars, I think that there was enough in there as well to make it very interesting, like a lot of reveals and just sort of some context for some of the important characters. But for me, coming out of The Force Awakens, one of the big sort of head scratchers for me was just trying to comprehend, well, who's the Resistance, and who are the First Order, and how do both of those entities differentiate from the New Republic? And this book, it really explains a lot of that, and it was just a great read and excellent information provided to just give some clarity on how we get to the political situation that we get to in The Force Awakens. And again, as I mentioned, even if you're a little concerned about that it relies heavily on politics, I think that there's enough in there. And maybe I'll just mention too, I think going in, I was hoping that there would be a little bit more just in regard to the Force and Luke Skywalker with the Jedi, but maybe I'll save that for the end of the review and the discussion, just sort of get into what I expected. But yeah, it was very heavily relying upon the political sphere of the galaxy. Now, also too, I'll just say that the story is based around Princess Leia. Again, she's the main protagonist of the book. And I just have to tip my hat to Claudia Gray. She did an excellent job, in my opinion, of writing the character of Princess Leia. It was very true to form, in my opinion, and just sort of shows that Princess Leia, again, not really focusing on anything to do with the Force. She doesn't go on to become a Jedi like Luke Skywalker or anything like that. Very committed to just the political side of the galaxy. And I think that that's very true to form and a good sort of role for Princess Leia, even 24 years after Return of the Jedi. So I thought that Princess Leia, again, a very strong character to sort of base a book around. And also, too, I thought that there was a lot of interesting aspects that I liked just involving Princess Leia. For example, there was a lot in the book just in regards to Princess Leia and her grief surrounding the destruction of Alderaan, and then also the loss of her parents, particularly Bail Organa. And I thought that that was great. Excellent writing, because again, true to form, if you think about it, in A New Hope, if you have to stand there and watch your home planet be destroyed, it only makes sense that that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. So it makes sense that there was quite a few scenes of her just making mention that she was still grieving over the destruction of Alderaan. Now, I also like, too, there was a lot that Claudia Gray sort of pulled in from the original trilogy. Like, she would utilize, not flashbacks, but just sort of grab moments that occurred in the original trilogy and just sort of related them to the events that were taking place in Bloodline. So I really like that. Again, too, it just sort of reminded you of the great scenes in the original trilogy. And I'll just make mention, too, just in regard to the character of Princess Leia, I thought that Claudia Gray did an excellent job just sort of setting out the relationship between Han Solo and Princess Leia. For example, I didn't really know if there was going to be a lot of Han Solo in the book. He kind of makes an appearance here and there, mainly by video. Again, they don't really meet face to face. But again, if I'm assuming by the time we get to The Force Awakens that there's been this really long period of them from being separated, but it seems in the book that that's just sort of beginning, and you do kind of get a sense of how it ended up by The Force Awakens, that they were sort of distant, with Princess Leia focusing on her political role with the Resistance, and then also too with Han Solo going off and doing whatever it is that he was doing. In the book it was, I guess, racing or something like that. But I did see a lot of the sort of situation that was developing through the book. It really did give a good indication of how they ended up, how the Han Solo and Princess Leia relationship ended up being to where it was in The Force Awakens. So I really like that. I don't think there's too much to say about some of the side characters on the protagonist side. You know, Joff C. Stryker was a very interesting sort of young X-Wing pilot. I don't know about anyone else, but I just sort of pictured Poe Dameron for a lot of those scenes. But I would have to say that probably my favorite character, just in the sense that they were the most interesting, was probably Ransom Castorfo. And he was a senator on the centrist side of things, but it did good. The character did give a really good sort of look into some of the thinking and some of the way that people form their opinions on what the Empire was. And for him, again, just being somebody who sort of dreamed of the Empire coming back and sort of centralizing power in a sort of a single person in the galaxy, and then also using that to increase efficiency and bringing the worlds closer together, but then also keep that sort of separate from wanting, again, there's a sort of line in the book where it said the Empire, so sort of wanting an empire to come back, but wanting to keep it distant from the Empire that had come before, particularly with the corruption of Palpatine, and then also sort of the brutalness of Darth Vader. So I thought that it was a very interesting character, just to sort of see how the opinions in the galaxy were mixed, and then also too, even though he's a centrist wanting the Empire to return, being too honorable and probably too honest for even the centrists who wanted the return of the First Order. So I liked him as a character. You know, the fact that he collected old Empire pieces was very interesting, and again, he had sort of a bad exit of the book. You kind of do grow to sort of feel sorry for him by the end of the book. Now, I wish that we got a little bit more on some of the antagonists, and I was really hoping for a little bit more from the Rin Riven D character, and then also the Arliz Hadrassian individual. The Rin Riven D, you know, just getting a sense that there were groups that were replacing the Hutts by the time that we get to the book. I thought that that was really interesting, and he kind of had a pretty, I guess he was defeated quite easily, so I wish there was a little bit more for him. But then also too, the Arliz Hadrassian character, again, very cool character, how we see that there's a lot of people who were around during the Empire, and they're still very Empire loyalists, I guess, for lack of a better word, and sort of wanting the return of the Empire. But I wish we had a little bit more from those characters. But maybe I'll just say some other interesting parts of the books from the book that I liked. One of them too, again, the sort of main build-up for the book was the galaxy finding out that Darth Vader was Princess Leia's father. I mean, I'll just be honest, I was really on sort of the edge of my seat as that whole secret was being put out there to the Senate by Ransom. And, you know, I don't know what I kind of expected after Return of the Jedi, but it does make sense, I guess, that really other than Han Solo and Luke, and I think Leia kind of mentions that people like Lando and Mon Mothma sort of got a sense that maybe Darth Vader was her father, but really it was a secret that was kept even so long after Return of the Jedi. So it was interesting to see that the galaxy does find out that eventually, even by the time we get to The Force Awakens, and again too, you'd have to know that it was at that point too, because of Kylo Ren's fall to the dark side. But yeah, very interesting scene that the galaxy finally finds out that Darth Vader is Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker's father. Now, I like I said too, I really enjoyed the political aspects of the book. Again, a lot of it just sort of focusing on the populist side versus the centrist side. So I was a big fan of the political writing, and then again too, just to see where the Resistance comes out of and then where the First Order comes out of. So I liked the political side, and it was, again, interesting part just to see how weak the New Republic was. Again, if you just sort of focus after Return of the Jedi, you kind of think that everything's fine and they're just going to go off and start a new Republic and a new Jedi Order and everything's just going to work out. And we see that even as bad as the Old Republic got near the end of the Clone Wars, it does kind of reach the same point where nobody trusts the Senate and really not a lot of people like the Senate. And even Princess Leia sort of realizes that by the end of the book. Now, another very interesting reveal, and I'm still sort of on the fence of how I feel about it. I'm kind of trying to put it all together in my head, but just the fact that Luke Skywalker really doesn't have much of a role in between the years of the Return of the Jedi and then also the Bloodline book. It sort of paints him within that 24-year period as just sort of being, I think they called him a figure of myth, and just sort of even referred to him as being sort of irrelevant at times. You know, I guess he's built off building the Jedi, his new Jedi Order during this period, but it does make mention that he hasn't really been seen in the public sphere during all of this time, and is just kind of, I guess, off training individuals, because I think that that did mention that he had his influence over his own acolytes. So really not much Luke Skywalker in the public sphere, which means, again, really not too much from his Jedi Order either. So I think that there would be a good book just to see what Luke Skywalker is doing in between these years. But again, we don't really see much about Luke Skywalker. I guess it's all going to be revealed, or at least I hope some of it will be by the time we get to episode 8. Also, to another interesting point, again, we actually see that Leia is worried about telling her son Ben that Darth Vader is his grandfather. So I did like that that was part of the book. And maybe too, I'll just say that one other reveal that I liked was just this character of Brendol Hux. And just seeing the Hux last name there did sort of give me pause, and I kind of had to do a little bit of research there after reading the book, and just sort of seeing that there was a connection between the Brendol Hux that I think it was Arliz Hadrassian had mentioned. I forget who brings up that name, but just to see that General Hux from The Force Awakens, his father was connected to the Empire holdouts, I think, in the Battle of Jakku, and then I think it mentions that he flees to the Outer Rim. So you do see, again, a connection between General Hux and then also the First Order. So I guess the General Hux we see in The Force Awakens, he might have been, you know, from birth connected to the First Order and did sort of rise. So I thought that that was a very interesting reveal as well. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just make mention of a couple areas where I wish, when I picked up the book, I wish that we would see a little bit more of these sort of plots and these storylines. But definitely first on that list is just something about the First Order. Again, too, it's so sort of draped in mystery in my mind. I wish that we just had something that, I mean, even if it was just a conversation between two higher-ups in the First Order, like even just a quick little scene at the end of the book where it just sort of gives their strength, like shows what their strength is and maybe what their goals are. But I mean, all we really got was just, I think it's called the Amaxian Warriors, who was sort of viewed as the advanced guard of the First Order. So we sort of see their strength in sort of the Amaxian Warriors, but we don't really get anything in regards to the First Order itself. Just outside of sort of the vague mentions of it, that it's off building strength in the Outer Rim. So that's cool enough. That could probably gave me enough where you could kind of imagine it on your own, but I wish that we had some sort of perspective from the First Order where we could hear from them just what they were trying to achieve. And then also, it was probably unrealistic for me. I was hoping that there would be some presentation of Supreme Leader Snoke. And again, I wasn't hoping for much, because again, you can't introduce all these sort of side elements into a book that shows just what Princess Leia was going through 6 years before The Force Awakens. But I was really holding out hope again to just one quick little scene about Supreme Leader Snoke, or even someone just mention his name, even if we just sort of get a timeline of who he is and what sort of point he came into being the Supreme Leader. Again, even if you just get some of those little pieces of nuggets of information that you can sort of start making connections to. It would have been interesting to see if he was actually the Supreme Leader 6 years before the Force Awakens, or if it was before or after. Either way, I kind of wanted something in there about Supreme Leader Snoke, but I'm not really surprised that we didn't get anything. And also, too, just sort of, it was made mention a couple of times that Han and Leia's son Ben was off training with Luke Skywalker by this point, which kind of surprised me, I guess, in the sense that it does seem like he had been training either as a Jedi, and then we don't really know when exactly his fall was to the dark side and when he joined Supreme Leader Snoke. But, you know, it had been a little bit longer than what I thought it was. But it makes mention in the book that he's training with Luke. I wish that we could see just sort of some reaction that he had just to finding out that his grandfather was Darth Vader. I really did like, though, that it said that Princess Leia was worried about it, and sort of in her conversations with Ransom that, well, unfortunately now he has to learn of this information in probably the worst way possible. Not from his parents who could explain it, and not from Luke who could probably explain it better, but as sort of gossip that emerged from the floor of the Senate. So I wish that we had some reaction from Ben, even if it was just sort of indirectly, like Han telling Leia what the reaction was, or something where it had gotten back to Princess Leia. Something where we saw what Ben's reaction was. But with that said, just from his fall to being Kylo Ren, probably wasn't very good. But I wish we had something in there just in regards to Ben's reaction to the reveal of Darth Vader being his grandfather. And just based on the book, something that I kind of wanted to see as the book went on. And I don't know if other people were disappointed by this, but I could see there being a little bit of disappointment, particularly if you're not too keen on the really staunch political aspects of Star Wars. But even I was kind of wondering, I wish that there was sort of that end of the book, sort of Star Wars type feel, sort of bigger battle that would go on, especially since they uncovered the Amaxian warriors and sort of kind of painted it as a sort of a force that was pretty capable of doing quite a bit of damage to Hosnian Prime. But I was just sort of wondering, you know, maybe we could see Joff Seastriker sort of emerge and see him sort of, you know, act heroic in a battle against them. But I just found that they were just sort of destroyed way too easy just sort of by Han and Leia. And I think Gear and Joff had showed up by that point. They shot down one of the fighters, and then it crashed into the underground secret base. And then it just sort of blew the whole thing up. So there wasn't really a big battle at the end of the book to kind of cap it all off. They just sort of uncovered the Amaxian warriors, sort of found their secret base, and then easily just destroyed it. If they were truly the advanced guard of the First Order, it really would have been interesting to see what they were capable of, particularly since it seemed that they were trying to strike out against the Senate on Hosnian Prime. So I wish that there was more of a bigger battle to end the book. But yeah, I think those were just my thoughts and some of my opinions about the book. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I made it through the book actually pretty quickly. It was one of those books that was hard to put down. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to jump back into the Star Wars book reviews and discussions. I think I'm not going to do sort of present it as a 52 books in 52 weeks challenge like I had done in the past. But I think what I'm going to do is just try to commit to doing a lot more reading and then trying to get these reviews out as quick as possible. Maybe one a week, maybe one every 2 weeks. But that said, I was a big fan of Bloodline by Claudia Gray. I've already moved on to my next book. I'm already about 80 pages in, and what I'll be doing is a review. The book is Lords of the Sith, and that's by Paul Kemp. So I'm really looking forward to that. Again, like I said, Hopefully I can do it a week from now. But yeah, those were my thoughts of Star Wars Bloodline. I would definitely recommend it. It's an excellent book. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope you guys are all having a great day. I look forward to seeing you guys all next time.